since we have finally overcome our first conflict since the children have escaped the farm, I think it's time I finally sit down and talk about this. As I said, I was very worried that the Promised Neverland would kind of dip in quality because of leaving the farm. Because the first arc was absolutely amazing. Great stuff, great tension, great characters, great villains. Just overall, it was a solid first arc of a series to really gain fans and allow the series to grow in popularity. And it has gained a large fan base thanks to the first arc. And I was very concerned, since we finally have left the, the prison and the escape arc is done, I was very curious to see if the quality of the series would still retain that same status as it was with the first arc, or would it dip and eventually get axed because it couldn't actually have that same tension. And after everything I just said, basically, I can definitely say I can breathe a little bit easier now with this series. I don't think I need to worry as much, because the quality of the first conflict that the children have had to overcome with, this, Venus flytrap, basically, like a mega-sized one, the way it was handled was really well done. It kept the tension, and it continued to keep the characters in the same situation that we know and love. For instance, them having to overcome many difficulties and problems in their path, and overcome these walls, basically. And that's what Ray and Emma and the other children had to do to overcome these obstacles. For instance, like this plant that was trying to kill them. But now that they've gotten out of this, and everybody is pretty well off, they're safe, there is another problem lingering in the background of this chapter, and that is the demons. The demons are catching up. And we have it to where a demon is leading a pack of demon hounds, basically, sniffing out the children. And they know the actual general area they are in, which is not a good thing. We don't know necessarily how many hours or days the children are ahead of the demon's search. However, they are gaining ground, and it's not good, because at the end of the day, you gotta remember, the children, they have a big group, and they do need to rest, because they are human beings, but they're also children. Now, just because they're children doesn't mean we should underestimate them. However, we have to also factor in that they do need rest, they do need to eat, and they need all sorts of things to make sure they can survive. And that's also including the dangers of the environment, because they can't just continue to run forward without really thinking about it, because now they know that it's not just demons or, people out there that want to kill them. There's also just creatures or plants that will eat them and devour them. So they gotta worry about stuff like this. And so the demons are gaining ground, and it's not going to be too much longer until the demons probably catch up, and the children are going to have to do something, and that is what I'm very curious about right now. How is Emma and Ray going to combat something like this? Because if these hounds and all that, these demon hounds, can sniff out the children and know where they're at, there's really no way you can hide, because if they continuously get hunted down, it's just a matter of time until they're found. The only way the children could possibly escape, if those dogs are chasing them thanks to the sense of smell, might be if they go across a body of water, which I want to point out in this chapter of The Promised Neverland, and mentioned it quite a few times, that it's very cold and there is a possible ocean nearby. So maybe, from what we can gather from this chapter, is the only way the children are going to be able to escape the trail from the demons chasing after them is if they cross the ocean. They make some form of boat or whatever, a makeshift boat, and cross an ocean or a body of water, for the demon hounds and stuff can't keep up. Because remember, if they are following them thanks to the sense of smell, they obviously won't continue to be able to chase after them if they go across a big body of water. They won't be able to keep up. So because of that, I feel like that's the only way the children are going to be able to get out of this safely without any of them dying, but also get rid of the demons chasing after them. Now, obviously, the demons most likely figure this out once they make it probably to the beach or wherever. They'll figure out, oh, they crossed a body of water, and then, they'll have to go across to figure out where they pick up the scent once again. So it doesn't mean necessarily that the children are home free once they cross whatever water that they may come across, but it means they are given more time, maybe a couple hours to a couple of days, maybe even weeks before the demons could possibly catch up with them once again. So it's constantly going to be a back and forth, them running away from the pursuers, and I'm really curious to see how the writer is going to handle this, because so far what the writer has done with the series is very, very interesting, and the writer is very talented, because always, every chapter, there's tension. You can feel that tension just creeping up on you, and you don't really know what's going to happen next. You don't know if a character's going to die or not, and that really has me impressed with this series. But it doesn't just stop there, though. We do know that the book is definitely leading them down the proper path. The book is basically an adventure book that tells them what is to come. And this is good. This is a really good source of information. However, I highly doubt the book is going to be as easy as reading it and figuring out what is coming. Because you got to remember, this book was placed in the library where the farm was, so it probably had to be edited, or it had to be, you know, changed up a little bit for the demons or whatever wouldn't catch on that there's something very off about this book. So, most likely in this book, there might be certain things that might be difficult to understand, which that would mean that, you know, Emma and Ray and the other children would have to look at this book, this adventure book, and really process what is going on here and kind of, you know, analyze it to see what it means. Like, for instance, the snakes in the adventure book that represented the vines. That shows that it's not the exact same thing. For instance, like, they could say beetle in the adventure book, but it might not be a beetle that's coming to kill them or whatever. That must be a big-ass beetle. But the point stands. Basically, whatever it says in the book, it might be similar, but it's not the exact same description. It could be similar, but it's not the exact same. So they're going to have to do a process of elimination. They got to figure out what they could possibly expect in the future, but also they got to remember that they really don't know what's all out there. There's stuff that, you know, normal humans haven't seen before or a very long time because of that plant, for one, being very different from what was on Earth. So that's a big other factor here, too, that they all need to process and think about. So whatever it says in the book, if it's like a big-ass tentacle monster in the book, you gotta think, like, does it mean a big tentacle monster? Does it mean something else? Like, something else entirely? That's crazy. So they gotta process things that, you know, they probably never would have thought of that would be normal at all. So I am very, 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 very interested to see what happens next for The Promised Neverland, because this was a good chapter. So let me know your thoughts. How do you all feel about this chapter? How do you all feel about, you know, the progress of this series? And now that we left the farm and the first conflict has kind of been overcome, how do you feel about it thus far? Do you feel like the series is still holding up to the standards that we all expect from it, or has it fallen down in your personal opinion? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. Please be safe. Chibi out.